Justin, top Trump aide Stephen Miller, dodging when asked about President Trump saying he is a top candidate to become Trump's next full-time national security advisor. Here's Miller.
We have a tremendous national security advisor right now. His name is Marco Rubio. I've gotten to know Marco so well. I consider him a close friend. He's doing an extraordinary job. He will be the Kissinger of our time, and I'm just proud to work alongside him. In my role as Deputy Chief and Homeland Security Advisor, let me tell you, President Trump made the right choice with this appointment.
Of course, Rubio is interim, and it's only going to be a few months, according to Trump. And Miller's comments came just hours after Trump heaped his praise on Miller.
Stephen Miller's at the top of the totem pole. I mean, I think he sort of indirectly already has that job. You understand? Because he has a lot to say about a lot of things. He's a very valued person in the administration statement.
Out front now, former Democratic Congressman Max Rose and journalist Gretchen Carlson, also the co-founder of Lift Our Voices. So, Congressman, is Stephen Miller qualified to be the next national security advisor?
Under the normal circumstances, absolutely not, but it would be very fitting for this administration, which what you're seeing left and right is they don't actually value national security experience, right? They have a Secretary of Defense who had zero experience doing anything on a high level in this space. So you could see Stephen Miller coming in there and organizing immigration raids across military bases across the country and joyriding the Department of Defense just as the other individuals have been. For God's sakes, his daughter, her husband, father, is the senior advisor for African and Middle Eastern affairs. His real estate buddy is doing negotiations directly with Putin. Geopolitics for them is just a joke.
I mean, Gretchen, Olivia Troy was former Homeland Security Advisor to then Vice President Mike Pence. Saw Miller obviously close in the first Trump term. I actually think it's better to play this than to quote it. Here's what she said about Miller.
He is a horrible human being. I think he is someone who has gone all in down the rabbit hole on very much extremism, and I think in his like mind, there would be no migrants, immigrants, or any mixed race in our country.
Are Miller's views the exact reasons why Trump would want it?
I was going to say, when the question is about is he qualified, not for national security potentially, but certainly in Trump's eyes, because he is the most far-right, fringy guy, I think, in the administration. And he's a yes man to Trump. But keep in mind, this is the guy who was behind putting children in the cages in the last administration. He's now behind the getting rid of federal funding for educational institutes like Harvard if they don't agree with Trump policies. He now has said today on social media that he doesn't really believe in due process unless you're already an American citizen, which would come as a shock to the Supreme Court because according to the Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment and the Supreme Court rulings in the past, immigrants do have due process. They might have to go back to their country or to another country, but they have to have a hearing first. So I think that we would be in for a whole new game in the National Security Office with Stephen Miller because nobody would know what was going on.
If Trump may get clear where he stands for now, he's said he's got a few months to make the decision. We'll see when it happens, Congressman. But, obviously you served in the military, and we have this reporting on Defense Secretary Hegseth that he is going to be cutting the number of four-star generals and admirals. He's going to cut it by at least 20%. So this is the four-star level, at least 20%. So you served in Afghanistan. You were obviously a senior advisor to Defense Secretary Austin. Is that something does that make sense? Is that there's just a lot of fat and bloat at the top? Does that argument add up at all?
Argument adds up. That's not a bad idea. Look, there's three-star generals are incredibly impressive individuals who could fill most of these four-star roles, and there's certainly excessive bureaucracy in the Department of Defense. But there's a deeper problem here, which is why are they doing this? And I don't think it's actually connected to a strategic imperative, but rather to the fact that they're looking for constant destruction, and these generals are intimidated to folks like Pete Hegseth because they have what he doesn't, which is experience and good instincts.
But you're saying there could be cuts, but it's how you pick it, who you do. That
Well,
it's
Yeah, of course. They're absolutely. I mean, it's an incredibly bloated organization. There's no doubt.
Well, he's gone on the record, Pete Hegseth, in a podcast before he was confirmed as Secretary of Defense, is saying that at least 1/3 of the military was there for political reasons. In other words, he believed they were politicizing their roles. So I think we should pay very close attention to the people whom he decides to get rid of.
Right.
Because this could be a way, I agree with you, that governmental operations tend to be bloated, as is bureaucracy.
But under the guise
But
of
under the guise
to do a political
who
purge.
will he be getting rid of?
So let me ask you also, because President Trump is defending that AI generated images himself. The Pope that he sent out, the White House sent out, and claimed he had no idea where it came from. He had posted on his own account, but that's why I'm noting that. And he said this today.
The Catholics loved it. I had nothing to do with it. Somebody made up a picture of me dressed like the Pope, and they put it out on the internet. That's not me that did it. I have no idea where it came from. Maybe it was AI, but I know nothing about it. I just saw it last evening. Actually, my wife thought it was cute. She said, "Isn't that nice?" Somebody did it in fun. It's fine. Have to have a little fun, don't you?
He posted on his own account.
Yeah.
But to say that Catholics were, thought it was great, and Cardinal Timothy Dolan said that it was not good.
Well, and that's very interesting because Cardinal Dolan has been a huge supporter of Donald Trump. But I think it's, look, is it a joke? Can we all take a joke? Yes. But I do believe that it's sacrilegious. However, I also believe that at least half the country maybe wouldn't be that upset if Donald Trump actually did become the Pope, because then he wouldn't be president.
Oh, not the half people might have thought you were about to say. Gretchen took a turn there.
I did.
What do you make of that now, Max? I mean, this has been, and no doubt this is what he wanted, right? We're not, if you're talking about him looking that he's the Pope, you're not talking about the trade war, you're not talking about those other things. Nonetheless, this is something that matters to a lot of people, and whether you're Catholic or not, there is something sacred about the religious leader of something as big and important, or of any religious person.
Sure. There's an element of this that's smart politics. I had Donald Trump's record for his last 100 days of chaos, costs, corruption, all going up, all skyrocketing. Every day you're going to think about how can you do something so outrageous that you can change the subject from your woefully inadequate record. Now, of course, one should think, if they were in the right state of mind, about all these Catholics in these swing states, and perhaps what we're seeing right now is a new stage of Donald Trump's recklessness, because he, of course, won't be up for re-election.
Yeah.
The one thing I was just going to add to that is that I think what egged him on to actually post that photo was that there were Republicans, after he first said a few days prior that he maybe would want to be Pope, there were Republicans who actually egged him on social media and said,
Lindsey Graham.
He did. He said, wouldn't it be wonderful if Donald Trump was Pope, the perfect person? And I think he saw that, and then that just fuels the fire to exacerbate the image of him as Pope.
Right. It's something like Lindsey Graham said, it was, always in jest. But it's something that endears you to Trump, and Trump feels that, and then lo and behold, we get the AI image.
Who knew? Lindsey Graham sucking up. It's not working, right?
Oh, yeah, just recently Donald Trump had just endorsed him in South Carolina in the race. So this is how it all works, Aaron. We're all not new to this game, right?
All right, the orange smoke. Thank you both very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And next, new